Hi everyone, welcome to the third webinar of a series of webinars conducted by TCS in lieu of the upcoming operational case study examinations happening in May 2023. And my name is Nick and I'm the lead tutor and evaluator for OCS at TCS. So I hope by now you should have watched the previous two webinars. If you missed the live sessions, you can access the recorded versions via our website, which is www.study@tcs.com. And in the first webinar, if you look at what we have covered so far, in the first webinar, I provided you with a study plan. So you should have started your preparations by now, because the pre-scene was released about 2 weeks back. So in such a context, or actually speaking, the pre-scene was released last week, so on the 24th of March. And I conducted out of the 4 pre-scene analysis sessions, I conducted just one under the free sessions. And if you had invested on paid content, you should have already accessed the 4 pre-scene analysis videos, thereby gaining an in-depth understanding about the history of the company, as well as the internal dynamics, industry dynamics, and you would have gained an appropriate level of knowledge pertaining to the financial performance of the company. And on top of that, we have already shared the 3 TikTok videos which are based on the pre-scene. And I hope you keep watching them on a daily basis, so that you keep reminding yourself about the most important points which are highlighted within the pre-scene. And in tonight's webinar, I'll be talking about answer planning technique as well as a time management technique. And you would have there could be a set of students who are joining us who could not clear the exam last time. And later on I'll talk about what you need to do when it comes to improve your chances of passing this time. And the fourth webinar, which is happening in another 2 weeks time, exam prep, I'll be taking you through examiners comments in order to understand what the requirements are, because when you are providing answers, you need to always think about the requirements of the examiner. So it's better to understand the mindset of the examiner. So that's covered under the fourth webinar, as well as I'll talk about what you need to do when it comes to developing confidence before the exam, as well as maintaining the same level of confidence when you are attempting the paper, because it's of utmost importance that you have a positive attitude closer to the exam, as well as whilst you are attempting the exam. Why? Because as per the CIMA examiner, confident students end up passing the exam comfortably. So all these things will be covered in the next webinar, which is happening in another 2 weeks time. All right, so let's look at the session outcomes. As I told you earlier, I'll talk about answering technique or answer planning technique. And if you stick to this technique, you'd be in a position to manage your time appropriately. And as the third part of tonight's session, I will be taking you through a mini mock as well as its suggested answer. And based on this mini mock, I will explain what you need to do when it comes to developing answer plans. Okay, I will show you in practice what an answer plan looks like, how to manage your time, how to determine how many marks are allocated for each and every subtask, and based on that, you can stipulate the number of points which you need to have within the answer plan. So all these things will be discussed in a practical sense towards the third part of tonight's session. And at the very end of tonight's session, I'll be talking about what you need to do to bounce back from failure. I've highlighted shortcomings usually faced by students, and for each shortcoming, I will be providing a solution. Okay, so let's look at the first part of tonight's session, answering technique. Okay, so what are you supposed to do when it comes to developing answers? You are supposed to use appropriate headings and subheadings. So this is of utmost importance when developing your answers. You need to use headings and subheadings so that you tell the invigilator that you are involved with answering technique which is professional. Okay, so the CIMA examiner wants you to use headings which are in bold and underlined format, as well as subheadings, which are just in bold format. So let me show you what, what type of structuring I'm talking about. So as you can see in here, this is the main heading, stages to be followed to carry out a training and development program. And the main heading is in bold and underlined format. And if you want to further subdivide your answer, or if you want to further faction out your answer, you can use subheadings. And if you are using a subheading, it needs to be in bold format. So that's that. And you might be thinking, okay, when am I supposed to come up with main headings and when am I supposed to come up with subheadings? So you have to develop main headings for each and every subtask. So for instance, if I take you through the question in section number 1, there are 3 main subtasks, and for each subtask you can see that there is a weightage provided which stipulates how many marks are allocated. Okay, so based if you look at the section number, in section number 1 there are 3 subtasks. So if there are 3 subtasks, you need to have 3 main headings within your answer. Okay, so that's exactly what you can see in here. If you look at section number 1, this is main heading number 1, stages to be followed to carry out a training and development program. And there's a second main heading, evaluation of budgeting styles. And there's a third main heading as well, which is relevant cost analysis. And under each main heading, you see subheadings, and the subheadings are in bold format. Okay, so for each and every subtask, you need to come up with a main heading. Then the invigilator can easily spot how you had factioned out your answer. Then it's easier for the invigilator to provide you with marks. So use appropriate headings and subheadings. And when providing answers, you are supposed to provide answers in paragraphs, which consists of 2 to 4 sentences. So per answer point, you need to come up with a paragraph of answers. So for instance, if there are 9 answer points highlighted within your answer plan, then you need to have 9 paragraphs of answers within your fully fledged answer. So you can see the same in here. All right. So for each and every point which I've highlighted within the suggested answer of the mini mock, which you can find under the free content via our website. So for each and every answer point, I've developed a paragraph. So if you have 9 answer points, you need to have 9 paragraphs. If there are 7 answer points, you need to have 7 paragraphs. And each paragraph should consist of 2 to 4 sentences. So why am I asking you to do this? Because first things first, the CIMA examiner is asking you to stick to a similar approach. That's the most important thing. And on top of that, when you develop a paragraph per answer point, then the invigilator can easily determine how many points you have highlighted within the answer. So let's assume you wrote this entire answer. Let's assume you wrote this entire answer within one single paragraph. So in such a context, the invigilator has to read your entire answer from one word to another. Okay, so it takes a bit of time, which will stress the invigilator out. And in such a context, you might not be in the good books of the invigilator, and you might end up losing marks. So why should you be in such a position when you can listen to the CIMA examiner and try and satisfy the invigilator? If you do so, you would get 2 or 3 additional points. Okay, so stick to this theme. If there are 9 answer points, you need to have 9 paragraphs. If there are 7 answer points, you have to have 7 paragraphs and whatnot. Then the invigilator can easily read through each and every paragraph and allocate marks effectively within a short period of time. Although you are taking 3 hours to attempt the entire paper, the invigilator takes somewhere around 7 to 10 minutes to mark your entire paper. So it's better to be in the good books of the invigilator rather than trying to stick to your own method. And ideally, per 45-minute task, you need to have 650 to 700 words within your answer. This is not a hard and fast rule. This is not stipulated by the CIMA examiner. However, by trying to achieve this standard, you are in a position to figure out whether you have written enough within your answer. So even if you write a 500 worded answer, if you had covered all the answer points, you would get full marks. I'm not asking you to stick to this standard, you know, uh, uh, at all times. If you just, come up with an answer which goes on for 500 words, yet if you had covered all the answer points, you would get full marks. But most students struggle when it comes to understanding the length of the answers. That's why I've provided a best practice. But remember, this is not law. This is a best practice. And when it comes to utilizing your time, 1/3 of the time should be allocated towards reading the question and developing an answer plan, and 2/3 of your time should be allocated towards typing the answer. So per task basis, you are allocated 45 minutes. So what I want you to do is allocate something like 5 minutes to read the question and understand the exact requirement. And after you understand the exact requirement, spend about 10 to 15 minutes to develop the answer plan for the entire task. So as I was showing you earlier, this mini mock consists of two main tasks. So per task, you are allocated 45 minutes. So out of these 45 minutes, allocate 5 minutes to read the entire question or entire task, and allocate another 10 to 15 minutes to develop an answer plan for the entire task. So you have already utilized 15 to 20 minutes. So you are left with something like 25 minutes. Utilizing the remaining time, which is 2/3 of the allocated time, you can type your answer. So you need to spend some time to plan the answer, structurize the answer. So when you are spending some time, you'd think without typing, because what I've seen is most students, right after they read the question, they start typing the answer, and halfway through they might realize that they are not in the correct direction, or they are not providing an answer which is aligned with the requirements of the task. So in such a context, these type of students would end up deleting the entire answer, and they'd have to start typing the answers from scratch. And you know for a fact that you had wasted a lot of time, and this leads to stress, and this buildup of stress is gonna affect your final grade. When you are stressed out, there are extremely low chances that you would pass your exam. So in order to avoid such a situation, take some time to think, take some time to think from whether you can bring in some information from the pre-scene. Take some time to think whether you had fulfilled all the requirements which are highlighted within the question. And once you are satisfied, you and once you have a structure at your disposal, you know what to type. So there's absolutely no thinking involved when typing your answer. Thinking is only there when it comes to developing the answer plan. And once you had planned your answer appropriately, you can easily utilize the remaining 25 minutes to type the answer. Okay. Although this is easier said, when it comes to practicing this, most students find it extremely hard to stick to this. Why? Because you cannot utilize your time appropriately by allocating 15 minutes for answer planning and 30 to 25 minutes for typing. You need to get accustomed to this process. You cannot do it the first time when you attempt a paper. So that's exactly why we want you guys to attempt our five mock exams via the exam platform under exam conditions. So if you keep on practicing this process, you'd find it a bit difficult at the beginning, but from mock 3 onwards, you'd realize that you have mastered this process, and mock 3 onwards, you'd realize that you never run out of time. You allocate enough time to plan your answers. And if that is the case, once you have planned your answer well or structured your answer well, then you'd get extremely good marks at your exam. So students who had actually stuck to our study plan, and students who had stuck to this process or practiced this process over and over again when attempting the 5 mock exams, have gotten more than 110 marks at the real exam. Okay. So you need to keep practicing this on a weekly basis when attempting your 5 mock exams, or else you are not in a position to master this technique. And the expected typing speed is a minimum of 20 words per minute. So if your typing speed is not up to standard, there are so many platforms out there on Google and stuff like that. So you can utilize these free sources to improve your typing speed. And when developing the answer plan, you have to determine the mark allocation for each subtask based on the weightage provided. So what is this point about? So if I take you back to the mini mock, in the first task, if you look at the first subtask, you are supposed to develop an answer based on training and development. And you can see here that the mark allocation is 30% for subtask A, or the weightage provided is 30%. So based on this weightage, you are in a position to determine how many marks are allocated for this subtask. So throughout the paper, under each subtask, you would see a weightage, and that helps you determine how many marks are allocated for each and every subtask. Okay, so that's that. I'll get back to that once I start discussing the mini mock. And do not spend time on formatting because you are not supposed to handle paragraph alignment and whatnot. Simply focus on the guidance which I provided with regards to headings and subheadings and paragraphs. Other than that, you need not focus on formatting. And remember, it is always about the quality of the points which you have highlighted within your answer. So that's exactly why I said that the word count is not too relevant, because this is not hard and fast rule. This is just a benchmark which you can try and achieve. If not, even if your word count is less, if you had covered all the answer points and your answer points are valid to the question, then you'd end up getting marks. So the examiner is not looking at the quantity or the length of your answer. Instead, the examiner is looking at the quality of your answer. So I'll highlight how to come up with high quality answers when I take you through the mini mock, when I discuss the mini mock. Then when it comes to developing answers, you are supposed to read the scenario first. So what am I talking about? So you'd, within your paper, you'd get a scenario like this. They'd say, something is happening within the company, and you receive an email from your finance manager. Okay. And the finance manager would stipulate some information which depicts a certain situation or a certain scenario the business is facing at the moment. So read the scenario first, plot the requirements into subheadings. So once you read the scenario, you can plot the requirements into headings and subheadings. Okay. So how many headings do you need to have within this main task? There are 3 subtasks. So you need to have three main headings, and each main heading needs to be in bold and underlined format. Okay. And under each heading, if you think that you need to further subdivide your answer, then you can come up with subheadings, and a subheading needs to be in bold format. So you read the scenario first, then plot the requirements into headings and subheadings. Okay. Then you need to invest some time to understand the requirements clearly. You need to read the requirement clearly to figure out what's highlighted. So let's I'll just take you through the requirement. Could you please draft me a report on the steps which we need to follow in our training and development program? Okay. Steps, you need to highlight the steps to follow when developing a training and development program. I believe that we will be able to continue the training and development program in the coming years if we could generate a better output this time. So what your requirement is to determine the steps you need to follow when developing a training and development program. Yes, invest time to understand the requirement. So by looking at this question, if you know your if you possess the theoretical knowledge pertaining to E1, you'd know that the examiner is testing your knowledge about the training cycle. I hope you know this concept, the training cycle. Okay. So invest some time to understand the requirement. So the requirement is to explain the training cycle. Okay. Plan the answer first. Maximum of 1/3 of the time can be taken. So, allocate 15 minutes to develop an answer plan for the entire subtask. not the subtask, rather for the entire task. So there are 3 subtasks. For all 3 subtasks, you need to develop the answer plan within 15 minutes. So as I told you earlier, this needs practice. First time when you are developing an answer plan for the entire task, it would take you about 30 minutes. That's totally fine. Keep pushing on. Yeah. And ultimately, once you keep practicing this technique, you'd be able to develop an answer plan within 15 minutes. And when developing the answer plan, do it on the answer screen itself. Do not use your scratch pad, because at the exam, you will be provided with a scratch pad, but there's absolutely no point of developing your answer plan within it, because then you'd have to shift between your main answering screen and and the scratch pad. And in such a context, you might miss out on certain points which you have highlighted within the scratch pad, because under exam stress, these type of shortcomings could occur. So to avoid such as shortcoming, what you need to do is, when developing the answer plan, do it on the answer screen itself. Then you will not miss out on points which you have highlighted, which you have thought about and highlighted within your answer plan. And once you have the answer structure, then utilize the remaining 25 minutes to expand the answer points which are highlighted within the answer plan. Okay, so what are the steps? You have to read the scenario first, plot the requirements into headings and subheadings, then you know the main structure. Then invest time to understand the requirement. We went through the question and figured out that the first subtask is testing your knowledge about the learning cycle and E1 related concept. And plan the answer, allocating 15 minutes within the answer screen itself. Then once you have an answer plan, you utilize 25 minutes to develop the fully fledged answer or expand your answer plan. All right, so having said or having covered all these technicalities, let's look at the mini mock. So as you can see, we are on the website, TCS's website, and once you log into your student portal, you might be using our free content, or you might have already invested on our packages. So this is your student portal. And as you can see, you can check out the videos, the study material, the mocks, as well as if you had invested on a premium package, you can attempt the mock exam via our exam platform in one single place within our student dashboard. So we are in the mocks section, and I'm going to focus your attention towards the mini mock, which we have developed for the upcoming OCS exams happening in May and August 2023. And I'm going to take you through the questions first. So before we move on to the questions, in your paper, you would get this information. It would stipulate how many sections are there. Since this is a mini mock, we have only included 2 sections, but within your paper, you would see 4 sections, and the time allocation will be there, and the number of subtasks. So within this mini mock, there are 6 subtasks in total, and the weightages are provided. And I told you, based on the weightages, you are supposed to stipulate how much marks are allocated. Okay, so first things first, you are supposed to read the scenario. Section number 1, a 45-minute question. Today is the 2nd of April 2023, and Trax Europe has carried out the quarterly performance review, and you receive the following email from the finance manager. So Ben Scholz, your finance manager, is sending you an email, and the subject goes as training and development, budgeting, and relevant costing, which gives a hint about the theoretical elements which are tested within this section. Okay, training and development falls under the E1 syllabus, budgeting and relevant costing falls under the P1 syllabus. We have decided to launch a special training and development session for assembly employees to enhance the quality of operations. In line with this initiative, Bill Gomez, our main assembly manager, asked me to do a presentation on the training and development program, which we need to follow for our employees involved within assembly operations. So your finance manager is saying, okay, we are going to run a training and development session, and the main assembly manager, Bill Gomez, had asked our finance manager to develop a presentation which stipulates the entire training and development program. So your finance manager is asking whether you could draft a report on the steps we need to follow in our training and development program. Okay, so you have understood the requirement. Then you are supposed to figure out how many, what the weightage is, because based on the weightage, you are in a position to stipulate how many marks are allocated. So let's look at the first part of the answer plan, how to do it. Okay. All right. So first things first, you are supposed to highlight the steps in training and development. So in order for you to understand better, I mentioned all these things. So the total mark allocation for each task is 37.5 marks. So 30% of 37.5 marks is 11 marks. So how many marks are allocated for your first subtask? 11 marks. All right. And based on that, you can stipulate how many answer points you need to have within your answer. So you need to have somewhere around 7 to 9 points to gain 11 marks. Okay, it depends on the quality of the points which you have highlighted as well. But as a general benchmark, you can focus on coming up with 7 to 9 valid points to gain something like 11 marks. So steps in training and development. So let's look at how to develop an answer plan. So I told you, let's go back to that. Read the scenario first. So we have already read the scenario, and you are supposed to plot the requirements into headings and subheadings. Okay, so we are in the second part. The main heading is training and development stages, and it's in bold and underlined format. Okay, then you need to stipulate whether there needs to be any subheadings. Well, the training and development cycle consists of five main stages or 5 main areas. So for each area, you can come up with a subheading. Okay, so step number 1 is identifying training needs. Step number 2 is stipulating training and development objectives. Step 3 is planning the training and development sessions. Step number 4 is delivery and implementation of your plans. And the last step is carrying out an evaluation to figure out whether the training was carried out in the most effective and efficient manner. Okay, so for each of the 5 areas, I've come up with subheadings, and the subheadings are in bold format. Okay, then once you have the main headings and the subheadings, invest time to understand the requirement clearly. Yes, we already know what it is about. Training and development, we have stipulated it within our main heading itself, and plan the answer on the answer screen itself. Yes, so now we are planning the answer. As I told you earlier, training and development falls under the E1 syllabus, and according to the training and development cycle, it consists of 5 main areas. First step is identifying the training needs, because there's absolutely no point of us conducting a training session without understanding the requirements of the people who are going to get the training. So the training session is conducted in lieu of the assembly employees working within assembly operations. So we need to understand the training needs of our assembly staff, so we can carry out a performance appraisal and figure out what type of shortcomings these employees experience. And based on these shortcomings, we are in a position to easily understand where these guys needed to be trained in. So identifying the training needs, these should be based on issues faced at present. So what I'm suggesting is, I'm not typing the entire answer in one go. Instead, I'm coming up with an answer structure or a summary. So under the first subheading, I'm going to highlight this point. So when identifying the training needs, we have to ensure that we understand the issues faced by assembly employees at the moment. Okay, then we are moving on to the second step, which is stipulating training and development objectives. So before we carry out a training session, we need to stipulate what we are trying to achieve. We need to stipulate an objective. So when stipulating the objective, it should be based on achieving efficiency in assembly. So why are we training these guys? To achieve a higher level of efficiency within assembly operations. and our objective should be just that. And when coming up with training and development objectives, we need to understand that whether we are fulfilling the SMART characteristics. So any type of an objective, you should already know, which also falls under E1. When stipulating any type of objective, it needs to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So if we can achieve all these 5 areas, then it is stipulated as a good objective. Then we are moving on to the third step, which is the planning stage. So this is where we are supposed to highlight the training methods. We need to decide on whether we are to opt for formal training or informal training. So if we are gonna go for formal training, then we might have to bring in a specialist, an external specialist, and carry out the training sessions. Or if you are going for informal training, we can utilize the capabilities and skills of senior assembly employees who could act as mentors to the other employees who work within assembly operations. So that's informal training. And we need to decide upon the location of the training, where we are going to hold it. Are we going to do it within our assembly area, or are we going to do it at a hotel or whatever? You have to plan these things. Then budget allocations need to be stipulated. So if you are going for informal training, you need not spend too much money, because you'd be carrying out on-the-job training, mostly utilizing your senior staff members. However, if we go for formal training, you might have to have the training within a different location. If that is the case, we have to pay fees. And on top of that, if you are using a specialist, you'd have to pay them remuneration. All these things, based on what the type of training you are planning to conduct, your budgets will vary. And the fourth stage is delivery and implementation. So when it comes to, so we do not stop the entire process just by coming up with a plan. We have to see whether we are implementing this plan in the most appropriate manner. Are we conducting the training in the most appropriate manner? So we have to decide whether we are going for in-house delivery or external delivery. In-house is when your existing employees or senior employees are providing training, or and on the other hand, external training is when an external specialist is coming on board. And whilst the training sessions are going on, it's better to ask this question whether we are achieving the training and development objectives. So constantly we are keeping track of our T&D objectives, because there's absolutely no point of conducting training without a reason. The only reason as to why we should conduct training is to figure out the issues which happen within or the inefficiencies within assembly operations and overcome them. Okay. And the last stage is the evaluation. So after the training session is done, we need to seek feedback from trainers, the individual who conducted the training session, to figure out whether the employees who are part and parcel of the training session were attentive, whether we need to get an understanding about the opinion of the trainer about the trainees. All right. So all these things are gathered, and on top of that, we should give a feedback form to the attendees as well, to figure out whether the person who conducted the training was up to standard, whether they learned something new, whether it resulted in expanding their knowledge. All these things need to be evaluated. Why are we evaluating? Because by evaluating the effectiveness of the training sessions, we can learn through the entire process and determine, whenever we are carrying out training in the future, we can do it in the most efficient and effective manner. So this is your answer plan. So as you can see, you're not supposed to you spend a lot of time and type long sentences. Instead, keep it simple as much as possible, because the answer plan is something which is developed by you. So you need to understand, if you keep it in such a way that you understand it, then that's what is necessary. So you're not supposed to come up with long sentences. Keep it simple, so that you spend a minimal amount of time on typing, and instead you allocate a lot of time to think, because if you think, you'd come up with better answers. Okay, so that's the first part. Then moving on, Further, during the board meeting, there was a discussion regarding different budgeting styles and the level of people involvement in the budgetary process. Okay, so the scenario highlights a situation where the board members are discussing about different budgeting styles and the level of people involvement in budgetary processes. The finance director, Carl Lomas, asked me to provide a report evaluating the benefits and drawbacks of the imposed and participative budgeting styles. So the FD is asking the finance manager to provide a report about the benefits and drawbacks of imposed and participative budgeting styles. So let's look at what the requirement is. Since I am busy at work, could you please provide me an explanation highlighting the benefits and drawbacks of the imposed and participative budgeting style? Okay, so what is the requirement? You are supposed to, so stick into our process. First things first, you are supposed to stipulate the requirement in a concise and understandable manner. Pros and cons, imposed versus participative budgeting. Okay, keep it simple so that you won't spend a lot of time on typing. So let's then look at the weightage provided, which is 40%. So a 40% weightage out of 37.5 marks gives you 15.5 marks. So for this section, you are allocated 15.5 marks. So you know what to do. So then let's move on to the answer plan, budgeting styles. That's our main heading. Because of that, it's in bold and underlined format. So once when you are developing an answer for this type of a question, whenever you are explaining a concept, it's better to start your answer by defining the concept. So define budgeting. So keep it simple. You have to provide your definition of about budgeting. That needs to be your first paragraph. Then we are moving on to the requirement. What is the requirement? Evaluating the pros and cons of imposed as well as participative budgeting. So first things first, it's better to highlight or define the concept. So I've said define imposed budgeting. So what is imposed budgeting? You call this a top-down approach. So usually imposed style of budgeting occurs within a company where the finance department decides upon a budget without any involvement of low-level employees or any involvement of other employees working within other departments. So the finance guys would get together, stipulate the budget, and impose it upon all the other employees or employees working in other different departments. So that's what an imposed style is, a top-down approach. So the pros of such an approach is it's less time consuming, because when you are not involving a lot of people within the budget setting process, instead you are only deciding the budget amongst like-minded individuals. When the finance guys are sitting together and deciding on it, they can take decisions faster because there is limited participation. And on top of that, like-minded individuals are setting the budget, so you can prepare budgets utilizing a short period of time. And there's faster decision making. As I told you earlier, like-minded people or people coming from a finance background are involved with budget setting, so they know what to do, they know what they are doing. So in such a context, decision making happens faster, and they need not listen to employees or representatives from other departments, because if you have to listen to them, you need to carry out negotiations, you need to carry out effective communication. All these things would take time. It's easier to take decisions when people from a similar background are working together, which leads to faster decision making and uses the expertise of capable managers who would have an overall view of the business. So usually when you look at an imposed budget, as I told you earlier, it is developed by finance employees and their expertise is in finance. So these are the pros of an imposed budget. What are the cons of it? Can't access local knowledge. Now, for instance, we are, if you look at Trax Europe, we are operating, we are selling our products through dealers, but we have three regional sales departments looking at three different regions. So when stipulating the sales budget under an imposed style of budgeting, you will not gather the insights from the regional sales managers or regional senior sales managers. So because as per the pre-scene, senior sales managers run the show within the regional sales outlets or regional sales points. So in such a context, when the finance department is stipulating the marketing department's budget, you are not listening to, or the sales department's budget, you are not listening to people at the ground level, people who are actually driving sales. So we cannot access local knowledge, and this demotivates low level employees or managers. So when the senior sales managers cannot be involved with the budget setting process, when somebody else imposes a budget on them, they'll feel demotivated because they do not have any control about their spending as well as their incomes. And when they cannot control the budgeting process, when they are not part and parcel of the budgeting process, they cannot influence the KPIs. So the KPIs, or the key performance indicators, will also be imposed on them, which leads to demotivation. And these employees, when they cannot be part and parcel of the budget setting process, they might resist when the budgets are to be implemented. Okay, so these are the disadvantages of an imposed style. So then moving on to the participative style, again start with definition. So what is a participative style? You call it a bottom-up approach. So rather than the finance department or the people at the top of the organization stipulating a budget, you involve everybody within the budget setting process. So that's why you call it a bottom-up approach. So even low-level employees are involved in the budget setting process. So what are the pros of this type of budget? We can access local knowledge easily. We can listen to our senior sales managers when stipulating the sales budget. Okay, and this leads to a high level of motivation, because when employees know that their opinions were considered when setting the budget, when they know that their opinions were considered by the CFO of the company, then this leads to a high level of motivation. And then in such a context, rather than resisting the budget, employees will be committed towards achieving the budgets. Why? Because if you are not achieving the budget, then you are to be blamed, because you were involved in the budget setting process and you are not achieving it. So in such a context, in order to avoid such a context, employees will always try to achieve budgets which were stipulated by themselves. Okay, so these are the advantages. And looking at the disadvantages, it's time consuming, because you need to involve a lot of people before you finalize the budget. So you need to carry out a lot of meetings, negotiations need to be carried out. You need to listen to opinions of people. You might have to spend some time on conflict resolution, because there will definitely be conflicts, especially between the marketing and finance functions. Why is this the case? Because the marketeers are trying to spend money usually as much as possible, do big marketing, carry out big marketing activities, thereby spend a lot of money, whereas the finance guys are trying to save money or reduce costs. So they are conflicting objectives. In such a context, these guys or representatives from these two departments will start fighting with each other. So you'd have to spend some time on conflict resolution as well. So a participative approach takes a lot of time, and it complicates decision making, because when there is an imposed type of a budget, as I told you earlier, like-minded individuals or people coming from a finance related background are involved in setting the budget. But in a participative approach, finance guys, marketing guys, HR guys, IT, all these types of people coming from different backgrounds are involved in the budget setting process. And people who are not coming from a finance background might not understand how budgetary processes work, which complicates decision making. And there is another disadvantage which we can see under participative budgeting, which is known as budgetary slack or budget padding. So this happens when you are stipulating. Let's assume that you are the senior sales manager of a certain outlet. So as a senior sales manager, when stipulating the sales budget, you can try and come up with a budget or standard which is easily achievable. So coming up with budgets which are easily achievable are known as budgetary slack or budget padding. So if you are a senior sales manager, you'd try to stipulate a budget which carries a lower sales amount. So if you achieve sales amount into $100,000 last time, you try to come up with a sales budget where your budget is now $75,000. So rather than trying to make $100,000 worth of revenue, it's easier to make $75,000 of revenue. So you might try and or the people who are participating in the budgetary process might try and stipulate easily achievable budgets. So let me talk about some head working or some manager working within the production department. So when stipulating the output targets, they might come up with easily achievable targets. Rather than manufacturing 200,000 tractors per month, it's easier to manufacture something like 150,000 tractors per month. So in such a context, you have enough time to idle and whatnot. You have enough time to spend without spend time on something else without spending it on production processes. So these type of issues are there. This is what budgetary slack or padding is about, where the participants try to stipulate easily achievable budgets. So that's the answer for imposed and participative type of budgeting. So as you can see, again, this is a highly technical area. In the first section, we discussed about the training and development cycle, a highly technical area. So the entire answer is highly theoretical. And the same could be said about the question on budgeting styles as well. It is extremely technical or carries technical information. Why is this the case? Because you are playing the role of a finance officer who's at the lowest level of the organization. As a finance officer, you are not supposed to be involved with decision making. Instead, you are only assisting the decision makers. So whenever the decision makers have some type of an issue or doubt about a certain concept, they would ask for your opinion. So your answers are going to be highly technical. Please bear that in mind. All right, so then moving on to the third subtask, since it's again a P1 related area, I'm not gonna take you through the answer, or I'm not gonna discuss the answer. Instead, I'm gonna move on to section 2, subtask C. Okay, so I'm talking about this part of the question. The questions as well as the answers of the mini mock are uploaded under the free content, so you can access the suggested answers. I'm not going to take you through all the questions which are within this paper. Instead, I'm just going to take you through 3 questions. So we have already done 2 questions. I'm supposed to finish just the last one. So if you want to gather information or knowledge about the suggested answers of the other tasks which I'm not discussing within this webinar, you can simply refer to the document where I've highlighted the suggested answers under the answers tab. Okay, so moving back to the question, I said I'm going to take you through the third question, which falls under section number 2. So the third subtask is this. On an unrelated matter, Reena Blois, your sales and distribution director, got in touch with me, and we were discussing about the performance of our sales teams. So the sales and distribution director and the finance manager are discussing about the performance of sales teams. She stated that sales teams are set ambitious sales targets and earn commissions on top of their salaries based on achievement of these targets. So sales teams get a normal salary, and on top of the salary, they get commissions based on their performance. According to Reena, the sales employees are responsible towards signing up new dealers, manage relationships with dealers, dealing with online and telephone queries from dealers and farmers, arrange delivery times, and stick to these delivery times. All this information is stipulated within your pre-scene. So within the pre-scene, the examiner had highlighted the type of responsibilities each and every sales employee needs to be committed towards or carry out. So that's exactly what I've stipulated within the question. So what are the responsibilities? Signing up new dealers, managing relationships with dealers, looking into online and telephone queries, arranging delivery times, and sticking to these delivery times. Further, the sales staff carry the responsibility of setting up and staffing trade stands at agricultural shows. So they have to manage the show within agricultural shows as well. Although Reena is aware about the sales targets, she is concerned as to how she can control and measure the effectiveness of sales staff in relation to signing up and managing relationships with new and existing dealers, the effectiveness of sales staff when dealing with online and telephone queries, and arranging delivery times, as well as setting up and staffing trade stands at agricultural shows. So therefore, suggest and justify 5 KPIs which can be used to measure the performance of sales teams within Trax Europe, considering the responsibilities of sales teams as highlighted by Reena. So you need to, according to this question, you need to come up with 5 KPIs covering these areas. So how can we figure out whether there is a good relationship between our sales staff and the dealers? How can we determine whether or can we determine whether the when attending to queries, whether our sales staff members are attending to them in an instantaneous manner? Are they arranging delivery times appropriately with the dealers? And are they sticking to these delivery times? What happens when it comes to setting up and staffing trade stands? Are we doing it in the most efficient manner? In order to keep track of these areas of performance or these areas of responsibilities, you are supposed to highlight KPIs. Okay. So let me go to that area. All right, so my heading goes as KPIs, sales team, and it's in bold and underlined format. So what are the 5 KPIs which we can come up with? So in this type of a question, when or when developing an answer pertaining to KPIs, what you need to do is you need to see whether within the scenario, certain things or certain relevant information had been provided, or whether certain inefficiencies within the organization have been highlighted. So if you go through this question, inefficiencies are not highlighted. However, it gives you an indication that the sales and marketing director wants to keep track of certain activities conducted by sales staff. These are the activities, signing up and managing relationships, then dealing with online and telephone queries, arranging delivery times, setting up and staffing trade stands. Okay, so these are the areas. So for each area, you can come up with a KPI. New dealer acquisition rate. So Reena wants us to figure out whether our sales staff are effective when it comes to signing up and managing relationships with new and existing dealers. So the KPI which covers that is new dealer acquisition rate. So this gives us an indication about the rate at which we are signing up dealers. And how do you calculate it? That is calculated as new dealer signups divided by total dealers contacted into 100. So if we contacted something like 100 dealers within a month and only 5 signups occurred, then the dealer acquisition rate is 5%. 5 divided by 100 dealers contacted into 100 is 5%. So higher the better. So if the dealer acquisition rate is increasing, then that indicates that we are signing up new dealers, and that would indicate that the sales staff are doing their job properly. Then your sales and marketing director or distribution director rather talks about managing relationships with new and existing dealers. There's a KPI for that, dealer satisfaction score. So when managing relationships, we need to figure out whether the dealers are satisfied or not. If they are satisfied, then there would be positive and collaborative relations between us and the dealers. So this KPI indicates how sales staff treat dealers and its effect on dealer relationships. So if our sales staff are treating these guys properly, then the dealer satisfaction score should be high. So how do we determine the dealer satisfaction score? We need to seek feedback via surveys. So we can stick to a simple 1 to 5 rating system. And within the 1 to 5 rating system itself, we can also ask the dealers to write down their comments if they want to further elaborate about their experience with sales staff. Okay, so that's the second KPI. Then looking at the third KPI, that's based on the information provided, effectiveness of sales staff when dealing with online and telephone queries from dealers and farmers. So average response time for queries, that's the KPI which covers that area. Low response times will satisfy dealers. Yes, so if we are taking a lesser amount of time to respond to queries and fulfill needs of our dealers as well as farmers, then that is going to satisfy our stakeholders. And how do you calculate it? You need to understand the total response time and divide it by the number of queries to figure out the average response time. Lesser the better, which gives us an indication that we are responding to the needs of farmers and dealers in an instantaneous manner. And the fourth area is with regards to arranging delivery times. On-time delivery rate, okay, indicates the effectiveness of sales staff in arranging and meeting delivery times. So we are trying to figure out whether our guys are arranging delivery times appropriately and meeting these delivery times by looking at the on-time delivery rate. And how do you calculate it? That's on-time deliveries divided by total deliveries into 100%. So higher the better. If our on-time delivery rate is 90%, that indicates if we make 100 deliveries, out of that 90 of them are made on time, which is gonna satisfy the dealers. Then the last set of KPIs are with regards to setting up and staffing trade stands at agricultural shows. So trade show performance is my title of the set of KPIs, and it indicates the quality of sales engagement. So if within trade shows, if our sales staff are engaging with dealers as well as farmers better, then it would drive future sales. So under this heading, you can utilize multiple KPIs such as number of leads generated at trade shows. So higher the better. If you are generating more and more leads within trade shows, then it indicates that our sales staff are doing their job properly. Number of inquiries received. So if our sales staff are proactively working towards marketing our brand, marketing our tractors or products, if they are proactively approaching farmers and providing all the necessary information, if they are listening to farmers, then they receive more and more sales inquiries. So that's another KPI which we can look into. And trade show sales can be kept track of by looking at this formula, which is revenue. We need to stipulate out of the total revenue, how much are we generating with regards to trade shows. So if this keeps on increasing, then that indicates that our sales guys are doing their job extremely well at trade shows. So they are in a position to provide all the necessary information, seek leads, and on top of that, they are in a position to convince farmers to buy our tractors. Okay, so based on the information provided within the scenario, I've developed KPIs. So developing KPIs is actually easy if you are in a position to understand the information which is highlighted within the scenario. Okay, and for each and every problem or each and every area which is highlighted within the scenario or the question, you are supposed to develop KPIs. All right, so that's I've discussed 3 areas or 3 subtasks of a mini mock. And as you can see, although our answer plan looks like something like this, you can see the entire structure clearly. and all the information is provided in a concise yet and extremely understandable manner. Although you develop the answer plan utilizing something like 15 minutes when providing the answer, as I told you earlier, you need to provide your answers in paragraphs. So that's exactly what you can see here. I've used appropriate headings as well as subheadings, and throughout the answer which I've developed, I've provided the answers in paragraphs, not in bullet points. But the bullet points are needed so that you are in a position to structure your answer properly. You can go through the structure and figure out whether you have addressed the concerns which are highlighted within the question. So rather than straight away typing your answer and finding out that you are headed in the wrong direction halfway through, at the very beginning, you spend some time to think. You need some time to think. You spend some time to figure out whether the requirements are addressed appropriately. You take some time to figure out whether the information you have provided within the answer plan is accurate or not. Then once you have the answer structure, utilizing the remaining 25 to 30 minutes, you are supposed to type your answers in paragraphs. All right. Any questions before we move on to the next part of tonight's webinar? Any questions?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the presentation. I just wanted to check on the responses. Do we need to respond in a letter format, or you can just go straight to what you to the answering plan that you shared, and you just start writing your response like that? Do you need to address the response like to, if you respond to the finance director who would have asked you to work on the task, or you just go straight to the response plan that you shared and start typing the responses after fixing the plan? Do we need to respond like a letter in a letter format?
Yeah, no, you need not do that. You can simply straight away start the answer with your main heading. Because as I told you earlier, per sub task, you need to come up with main heading. So just start like this, stick to a similar format, which are highlighted within our answer, suggested answers. I hope I addressed your concern.
Yes, it does. Thanks.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Any other questions, guys? You're welcome. If you have any questions, you can simply chat, drop a message on the chat section. All right. So before we move on to the last part of tonight's webinar, let me quickly tell you what we offer at TCS. So let me take you to our website. Yep. So I'm on the OCS page. So if you want to access the free content, you can do it by clicking on this button. And you saw what type of a dashboard is there. So all the information, all the study material, the videos and whatnot, the mocks, all are in one single place. So access free content by pressing on this button. And if you want to purchase our material, before you do that, refer to our sample material that will help you gain an understanding about the quality of the material we provide. So let me quickly talk about the packages which we are offering. We are offering 3 packages, the essential pack, the value pack, and the premium. Under the essential pack, you'd get your hands on the 4 recorded versions of the webinars which we are conducting. And you'd get your hands on the 5 mocks with suggested answers and the 4 pre-scene analysis videos. And this is priced at £99. So if you're extremely comfortable with the OTQ syllabus content, if you had aced your OTQ exams, and if you're comfortable with self-learning, this is all you need to pass. Okay, but you need to be comfortable with self-learning. You need to develop or attempt mocks on your own, and compare the answers to the suggested answers. You need to develop answer plans on your own. So there's a lot which you need to do on your own. So if you're comfortable with self-learning, this is all the necessary material you need to pass the exam. So that's the essential pack, which is priced at £99. And the second package is named as the value pack. And under that, you'd get your hands on the 4 webinars, the 5 mock exams with suggested answers, the 4 pre-scene analysis videos. And on top of that, you'd get your hands on something called the annotated pre-scene, which looks like something like this. So we have summarized the entire pre-scene in an understandable and concise manner. We have within the annotations, what we are doing is we are um, highlighting the most important points which are highlighted within the pre-scene. And on top of that, we will be explaining or providing hints about probable syllabus areas or syllabus content which can be tested within these annotations. So that's that. And you'd get your hands on something called a set of industry analysis slides, which looks something like this. So our industry analysis slides consists of 4 main areas. We'll be providing an overview into your chosen industry. We will talk about the competitive landscape, the trends within the industry, as well as what is going to happen in the future. And at the very end, we will be providing 2 real world examples. And remember, the information which contains within the industry analysis slides comprises of real information taken from the real industry. Okay, so these are provided with the intention of making sure that you better understand the industry dynamics, which will help you immensely when it comes to developing your answers. Then you'd get your hands on the financial analysis slides as well. So this is what it looks like. So we have decrypted the or dissected actually the P&L, thereby highlighting the most important information about profitability. Then the SOFP is dissected as well, so that you better understand about the financial performance. The SOCF, statement of cash flows, all these things are there. Then the ratio analysis is conducted, and I've made a comment about each area pertaining to what is highlighted within the ratio analysis. So that's what you'd get your hands on if you purchase the premium package, value package rather. And you'd get your hands on the top 10 likely issue slides, the case study familiarization kit, and you'd have access to a tutor managed live chat. We have experienced technical difficulty. We are trying to get it fixed by Monday. So after Monday, you'd get access to a tutor where whenever you face a problem, you are simply supposed to put it up on the chat section, and we are more than happy to help you guys out. And you'd get your hands on the theory recaps pertaining to E1, P1, and F1 syllabuses. So this is priced at £199. So if you feel that you did not perform too well when attempting your OTQ exams, and if you feel that you need some type of support, tutor support, then you should opt for the value pack, which is priced at £199. And the premium package comes with all the content which I highlighted within the value pack. On top of that, you'd get your access to the learning management system or the exam platform. And when attempting all your 5 mocks, you can do it via the exam platform, which had been developed akin to the Pearson VUE system on which you do your exam at, on which you would attempt your real exam. So when practicing the 5 mocks, you can do it within a similar exam platform, thereby getting yourself accustomed to real exam conditions. And we are providing professional marking and one-to-one tutor feedback on mocks 3, 4, and 5. So let me show you the type of feedback we provide. So as you can see, each and every paragraph has been evaluated and in-depth explanations provided throughout the answer script. And at the very end, we provide, the mark allocations. And looking at the mark allocations, we are providing something called a success rate, which helps you understand what your real shortcomings are on a subtask by subtask basis. So after looking at the success rate, you can see that this student needs to really improve the answer pertaining to task 2B because the success rate is just 26%, or the marks gained is just 3.5 marks. The same could be said about task 3A and 4A, where the success rates are not up to par. So in such a context, after you have attempted the mock exam and after you had gotten feedback from us, taking 2 or 3 days, what you can do is you can try and improve the quality of your answers within the areas where the success rate is not up to par. And at the very end, we provide general comments as well. Okay, so that you are in a position to improve your answers significantly. Okay, so that's that. Then you'd gain access to 12 master and you'd gain access to answer plans of all mocks. So you saw what an answer plan looks like. Okay, so we have developed an answer plan for the mini mock, and based on that only, I explain the answers for each and every task. So likewise, you'd receive answer plans for all 5 mocks if you invest on the premium package. And once you have these answer plans, it provides a good structure and a summary of all answers. And closer to the exam, once you go through these answer plans, it's as if you are covering the entire E1, F1, and P1 syllabus. And on top of that, you are getting accustomed to exam scenarios which can be thrown at you at the real exam. Okay. So answer plans are there. So a week before the exam, if you look at the study plan, within the 6th week, you are supposed to refer to the answer plans of mocks 1 to 5. So simply by referring to these answer plans, you are revising the answers, you are revising the theoretical content. That's all you need to do to get more than 100 marks, more than 110 marks actually at your operational case study examination. And you'd get access to 12 master classes where the mocks will be explained in depth. Just like I explained the mini mock, I will be explaining the answers of all 5 mocks based on the answer plans which we'll be providing to you. So that comes under the premium package, and you'd have access to a tutor on a weekly basis, because we are conducting 7 weekly webinars and workshops. And via these webinars, workshops, and master classes, you are in a position to get in touch with the tutors, and our tutors will be keeping track of your performance on a weekly basis. If you are falling short, we will be pushing you in the upcoming 6 weeks. And this comes with a monthly installment option. So first, you just need to pay £49. We are offering a 50% discount on this first installment. The installment is actually £99, but we are offering a 50% discount, which goes on for another 2 weeks. So first installment is 49, and the 2 remaining installments, which comes up to £450, needs to be paid in 2 monthly installments of £225 each. So the total price of the package is £500. We have divided it into 3 monthly installments, and all products are available until the 31st of August 2023. So if you're planning on doing your exam in August, still you can make use of the early bird discount which we're offering and invest on your preferred package. And the study plan is also there on our website. So we are approaching week number 2. So you are supposed to attend the 3rd webinar answering technique. We have already done it. And attend the master class pertaining to mock 1. This is a live class which is happening on Thursday, the 6th of April. And then attempt the 2nd mock via our exam platform. So by now, you should have completed these things. If not, you have to start right now. If you are thinking about investing on study material, I'm not asking you to buy from us. You can buy from anybody you want, any service provider, but you have to do it right now. Do not wait until the last 2 weeks, because you cannot attempt 5 mocks within last 2 weeks. Even if you do, you won't have enough time to contemplate on your shortcomings. You won't have enough time to take action and improve the quality of your answers. Instead, if you stick to our study system, what you need to do is you need to find just 3 hours on a weekly basis, 3 hours per week, to attempt a mock on a weekly basis. Everything else is handled by us. So Let's assume you attempt mock number 1 on Tuesday. Wednesday, you are supposed to go through the master classes where we are explaining the answers of all tasks. Then you'd understand or realize the type of answers you are supposed to develop. And by Wednesday, within 48 hours, you would receive the feedback, tutor feedback. Then you are in a position, you already know the expected type of answers because you had watched the master classes. Then after going through the feedback, you realize what your real shortcomings are. And you have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to yourself to focus on improving the quality of the answers which you have provided. You can focus on your shortcomings. So when you do that on a week by week basis, when you allocate an entire week for one single mock, you have enough time on your hands to understand your shortcomings and overcome these shortcomings. If your typing speed is not up to standard, you can work on it. If your answer planning technique lacks clarity, you can work on it. If when it comes to typing your answers, although your answer plan is good, you cannot really convert the answer plan into a proper fully fledged answer, then you can work in these areas. So you need to stick to this approach. If you do, you just need to find 3 hours on a weekly basis. Everything else is handled by us. And if you stick to this process, you can actually gain more than 110 marks. That's what most of the students who stuck to our study system, even during the last time, the students who stuck to our study system and attempted a mock on a week by week basis, those who stuck to our study plan excelled at the last examination. So that's what we offer. So having said that, let's move on to the last part of tonight's webinar, which is about understanding why you failed in your last examination. There could be a set of students who failed last time. So let's try to figure out what you need to do to overcome your failures. So first things first, you need to do your personal reflection and figure out whether you gave your best. Okay, if not, you need to change your strategy this time because you can't take any chances. The OCS exam, out of the 3 case study examinations, OCS is the hardest. Why am I saying it? Because this carries all technical information, or you need to be really conversant with theoretical concepts, especially pertaining to P1 and F1. So you need to conduct your own personal reflection and see whether you knew your theories and concepts properly. If not, then you have to work on them. So how are you supposed to learn these things? By attending the master classes, because within the master classes, I'll be explaining theory as well as application, just like how I did it in today's session. Just like I explained the answers of the task 1 of the mini mock based on the answer plans, I'll be sticking to a similar approach when conducting the master classes. So via these master classes, you can learn theory as well as improve your application skills if you lacked a capability in this area. I've seen most of the students coming through the FLP route or the exemption route, they lack an appropriate level of knowledge about F1 and P1 related areas. They know they are E1, but F1 and P1 related knowledge is lacking within these individuals or students who are coming through exemption routes. So in such a context, you cannot pass your exam. If you do not know your P1 and F1, you can't pass your exam. Okay. So in order to find a solution to this problem, attend our master classes. Then you'd learn theory via the master classes, and you'd understand how theory is applied to a real exam situation. Okay. And likewise, you need to do your personal reflection, figure out what your shortcomings were last time and where did you go wrong in the exam. You need to diagnose the reasons first and address them this time, and refer to the mini mock and suggested answers as well as the examiner's report to figure out what you need to do when it comes to improving your chances of passing the exam. If you attempt all 4 webinars and if you go through our answer plans and attend the master classes, then you are in a position to overcome your failures. And if you attempt a mock on a weekly basis, rather than trying to do everything within just the last 2 weeks. If you attempt a mock on a weekly basis, you can overcome each of these failures. And you might not have gotten any feedback for your answers last time, especially if you did not score too well at your OTQ exams. And if you are coming through an exemption route and failed last time, you have to go for tutor feedback this time, because you need to understand where you stand. If not, you'd think that you have come up with better answers, but in an actual sense, you cannot achieve a pass. Okay, so it's better to opt for tutor feedback this time. And you need to come up with an action plan, which is to work harder and smarter than the previous attempt. However, if you stick to our study plan, you need not work hard, you need to just work smart. So working smart is about allocating a lesser amount of time on preparations. So you just need to find 3 hours on a weekly basis and attempt the mock. Everything else is handled by us. Throughout the week, you are supposed to just attend a webinar or watch a video, which are easy things to do compared to, developing your own summaries, your own study notes, trying to understand the pre-scene. You need not do anything else. Everything is handled by us. Just find time to do a mock on a weekly basis. Okay, that's how you work in a smarter manner. Right, so let's look at the common reasons for failure. Practicing just 2 or 3 mocks, this is a killer. Most students end up doing this and failing the exam. Why is this the case? Because you cannot cover the entire E1, P1 and F1 syllabi by practicing just 2 or 3 mocks. If you have to cover the entire syllabus, you have to practice 5 mock exams under exam conditions, and not practicing mocks under simulated exam conditions. So as I told you earlier, where some students, what they do is when it comes to attempting mocks, they would attempt the first task of a mock today, the second task tomorrow, the third task day after tomorrow, and likewise. So you cannot attempt your exam in such a manner. You have to sit in one place and go through the entire exam, allocating 3 hours of your time. You need to get accustomed to sitting in one place for 3 hours at a stretch and handling pressure for 3 hours at a stretch. However much prepared you are, you would feel some type of pressure at the exam. If you feel that, if you feel that, you should be in a position to manage it properly. And how are you supposed to manage it? By practicing mock exams under simulated exam conditions. So if you are practicing a mock exam, you have to attempt the entire mock in one go, allocating 3 hours. You need to figure out how you are utilizing your 45 minutes on a task by task basis. All these things can be achieved if you use our exam platform when attempting the mock exams. And lack of technical knowledge pertaining to E1, F1 and P1. If you lack technical knowledge, you cannot pass this exam. If you look at the strategic case study examination or SCS, you can still pass the exam even if you do not know theory, because it's all about practical decision making and coming up with recommendations. So if you are skilled and capable employee, if you are playing a senior role within your company for which you work for, or if you're running a successful business, then you'd have a necessary level of knowledge and expertise or experience. And using this experience, you can pass the SCS exam, even if you do not know theory. But that is not applicable to the OCS exam. As I showed you earlier, if you look at the OCS exams, it's highly technical. It's checking your knowledge or examining your knowledge about technical areas. So if you do not know your E1, F1 and P1, particularly F1 and P1, you cannot pass the exam. So if you lack an understanding in these areas, there's absolutely no point of referring back to your notes and trying to understand theory on your own. Instead, simply attend the master classes which we are conducting. Then you learn your theory as well as improve your application skills. And shortcomings in application of knowledge, such as suggesting KPIs, if you attend our 5 mocks, and if you attend the 5 master classes, then you would know how to work on application. You saw we conduct when we conducted the session, you saw how to develop an answer for KPIs pertaining to the sales staff, depending on the information provided in the question. So likewise, we have come up with a set of KPIs which cover the entire business as well as the performance of dealers. All these things for each and every area, we have stipulated KPIs, and we'll be explaining all of these KPIs at the relevant master classes which we are conducting. And inappropriate answering technique is another problem. That's why most of the time people run out of time. So in order to find a solution to these points, in order to come up with better answer plans, and in order to manage your time appropriately, you need to stick to the answer planning technique which we highlighted, where you allocate 5 minutes to read the question, 15 minutes to develop the answer plan, and the remaining 25 minutes are stipulated towards or allocated towards typing the answer. And you cannot do it for the first time. When you are developing answer plans, you'd encounter or you'd realize that it takes about 30 minutes for you to do it. Sometimes you might take 45 minutes because you are doing sticking to such a process for the first time. But by the time you have attempted mock number 3, then you would realize that your answering technique had significantly improved, and your time management had improved as well. And the tutors of TCS are always there to help you guys out via the chat, which is run via Twilio. And lack of evaluation, where you lack an understanding to compare your answers with the suggested answers and see the gap between your answer and the suggested answer. So what is the solution to this? So the solution is to attend the master classes. Then you'd understand the points which are covered within the suggested answer. Then refer to our tutor feedback. Again, you'd realize what type of gaps you need to bridge before attending your real exam. And not adhering to a study plan could be problematic as well. We have provided a solution for this. You can simply refer to our website. We have developed an answer, a study plan rather. So if you stick to the study plan and work on a mock on a weekly basis, you can relax closer to the exam. All right, so having said that, let me remind you about the 50% discount which we're offering on the first installment of the OCS premium package, and this will only be available for another 2 weeks. So I hope you'd make use of this offer. Then any questions, guys? Any questions before we wind up? All right, seems like there aren't any questions. So let me remind you about how you can contact us. You can contact us via our website, which is www.study@tcs.com, or simply email us via info@study@tcs.com, or WhatsApp us on this number. I hope you guys are part and parcel of the WhatsApp group. If not, simply go onto our website and click on this button. Then you can join the tutor-led OCS WhatsApp group. And I urge you guys to follow us on our social media handles. The recorded version of this webinar will be uploaded onto YouTube as well. And check out our TikTok page because we have already uploaded 3 videos summarizing the entire presentation within 9 minutes. So please go check these things out, and check out our blog posts by visiting our website. Just click on this button, and all the technical nitty-gritties pertaining to your OCS exam will appear, and there's a lot to learn by going through our blog posts. Having said that, it brings us to the end of tonight's session. Thank you very much for joining the webinar. I hope you'd stick to the study plan. Those of you who had already invested on the premium package, you need to attempt mock number 2 within the coming week. I hope you'd stick to it, and please be reminded that our first masterclass is happening on Thursday, the 6th of April at 18 GMT or 7 PM UK time. See you on Thursday. Thank you.